This place was so cold, so dreary, and so depressing. Mandy squeezed Jed's hand even tighter. "In here!" The sheriff led the way past a tall grandfather clock and entered an office with large windows fronting on the hallway. Jed and Mandy hesitated and then followed him into the room. Jed swept the office with a glance. A large bookcase filled with musty volumes covered one wall. The opposite wall was occupied by a large cabinet. In the center of the room, two faded chairs sat on a moth-eaten rug. But the most prominent feature of the drab office was an enormous mahogany desk. Behind the desk stood a tall, broad-shouldered woman with huge hands. Large amounts of rouge, hastily applied to her cheeks, did little to soften her masculine features. Her graying hair was pulled back tightly into a bun on the back of her head, and her dress, once elegant and fashionable, was faded and worn and too tight in some places. Stern-faced and tight-lipped, she silently scrutinized them as they entered the room. "Miss Madeline," Chef Taggart said quietly, "these are the Barrett youngsters, Jed and Mandy." His tone of voice made one think that he was afraid of the big woman. Miss Madeline did not even look at him. "That will be all, Sheriff," she said, dismissing him with a wave of one big hand. The lawman retreated silently from the room, and the two terrified young people were left to face the unsmiling woman. She studied them without speaking for several long moments, and then looking up at them and looking down, as if she were determined to examine and memorize every detail of their appearance. Jed felt extremely uncomfortable. It almost seemed as if this woman could see right through him. He realized that his hands were shaking, and he quickly closed his fingers into tight fists. Mandy let out a tiny whimper, a sound so small that the woman did not even notice. "The Charity Home for Children has rules," Miss Madeline said sternly, addressing them for the first time. "You will learn the rules, and you will abide by them at all times. If you do not, the punishment will be swift and severe. Do I make myself clear?" Frightened beyond words, Jed and Mandy could only nod. "Good. Come with me." She stepped into the hallway, and her two new charges followed quickly. Mandy's hand slipped into Jed's. Miss Madeline turned around and noticed. "Young man," she gritted through her clenched teeth, "release her hand immediately. In this institution, boys and girls never touch one another." Jed dropped her hand. "But she's my sister." A huge hand shot out with the swiftness of a rattlesnake's strike, grabbing his chin, jerking it upward in one quick motion. Jed felt a sharp pain in the back of his neck, and suddenly Miss Madeline's face was mere inches from his own. "Young man," she snarled, biting off the end of each word, "don't ever argue with me again. If you ever talk back to me again, I'll thrash you within an inch of your life." Her face moved even closer, and her breath was hot and revolting. "Now, do we understand each other?" Jed could only nod. "Good." The hand tightened on his chin until it seemed that her huge thumb would crush his jaw. Jed trembled. "The East Wing," Miss Madeline said, releasing her hold on Jed and turning to the hallway to her left, "is the boys' wing." With one sweep of her hand, she indicated an imaginary line on the floor. "Girls never go past this point. Is that understood?" She glared at Mandy, who nodded meekly. The stern orphanage director turned and strode down the hallway with long, quick strides. Jed and Mandy glanced fearfully at each other and then hurried to catch up. They entered the large room with the tables and chairs. Girls are seated at the tables on the west side of the dining hall. Boys are seated at the east side. No one is allowed on the opposite side. She gestured toward the back of the room. The playground out back is divided in the same way. The boys' outhouses are on the east end. The girls' outhouses are on the west. A low wall divides the playground so that there is never any chance of misunderstanding. She fixed them both with a stern glare. Never, never let me or one of my staff catch you on the wrong side of the wall. If we do, the consequences will be severe. She looked at Jed. If a ball goes over the wall, you wait until a girl throws it back. She turned to Mandy. The same goes for the girls. Miss Madeline turned abruptly and strode out of the dining hall, leading them back into the front hallway. No boy ever goes into the girls' wing for any reason, she declared, sweeping her hand across another imaginary line on the floor. Cross this line one time, and you are dead. Miss Madeline was looking at him as if she expected a response, so Jed nodded meekly to show that he understood. Classrooms are upstairs above the dining hall, the stern woman kept on, striding back towards the office with her two new charges tagging along. The boys' classroom is on the east side, of course, and the girls' on the west. We rise promptly at 6:30 each morning. Meals are served promptly at 7:30, 12:30, and 5:30. We do not tolerate tardiness. Anyone late to a meal simply goes without. Classes are weekdays from 8 o'clock until noon, with the afternoon for chores and fresh air. The evenings are for quiet time and study, and lights out is at 9 o'clock sharp. Do you have any questions? You said we'll have the afternoons for fresh air? Jed said. What is that? Just another name for free time. Fresh air keeps a body healthy, so we want you to go outdoors each afternoon. Any other questions? They both shook their heads. No, ma'am. Miss Madeline picked up a large brass bell from her desk and rang it briskly. The sound echoed throughout the building. An incredibly tall, skinny woman hurried into the office, pushing her spectacles higher on her nose as she entered. Yes, Miss Madeline? Miss Agatha, this is our new student, Amanda Barrett. She is assigned to the empty bed in room 3. Show her to her room and help her get settled in, please. Amusement was written on Miss Agatha's face as she looked Mandy over. She's a little skinny wretch, isn't she? She's hardly to cast a shadow in broad daylight. Jed bristled with anger, but he dared not say anything. Miss Agatha, the stern director reprimanded, from now on you'll keep your observations to yourself. Yes, Miss Madeline, the tall woman replied meekly. Her mouth tightened in resentment as she turned to Mandy. Follow me, child, and don't dawdle.